This is Glenn Frizzell. I'm here at the historic Lincoln Building. Today's special guest is the city manager of Kansas City. He's no stranger to What's Up Kansas City, having been here before. Please, let's give a warm welcome to Mr. Troy Schulte.
Glenn, glad to be here.
So what's going on? Can you get us up to date with what's going on City Hall-wise?
Well, there's always a lot of great things happening throughout the city, but one thing that we're working on in particular is a big general obligation bond authorization that we're going to ask voters to go to the polls on April 4th, 2017. So Mayor and City Council and myself have been involved in that, but you know, it's springtime in Kansas City, lots of basketball being played downtown. It's a great time to be in Kansas City.
And we didn't neglect to wish you and our viewers a happy St. Patrick's Day. But why don't we go over the bond, the ballot issue, question by question.
Sure.
We know that we're asking voters to approve $800 million bond issue. And the question one is $600 million spending for streets, bridges, and sidewalks. And that also would create a citywide sidewalk repair program. Why is that important?
Well, we think it's a big issue to deal with the age of our infrastructure. We've got a lot of stuff that's over 100 years old. Some of our bridges are over 100 years old. Some of our streets are well over 100 years old. And we've got a lot of that infrastructure is crumbling. It needs repair. We've got a backlog of street repairs just in the current condition of over $765 million. If we don't do anything, in 10 years, that's going to be $1.2 billion. So we've got to spend money. It's never going to be any cheaper. It's never going to be any easier. So we think now's the time to do that for the roads and bridges, just to deal with the infrastructure of that $600 million question one. $450 million is allocated for roads and bridges all over town, but there's projects on as particular of interest to folks on the east side. 39th Street needs to be reconstructed. The Benton Bridge over Brush Creek needs to be reconstructed. East 12th Street Bridge over the Blue River on the far east side of the city needs to be reconstructed. 27th Street needs to be reconstructed. We got a lot of Prospect. It also includes the local match for hopefully we get the bus rapid transit from along Prospect from Independence all the way to 75th. There's a $12 million local match for that, $30 million in federal funds. That would be available if the general obligation bonds pass.
Question two is for $150 million for flood control. We would unlock $450 million in federal funds. I guess combined with the $150 that we're asking voters to approve to combat our flood issues. What kind of issues do we have here?
Well, in Kansas City, we have the third largest, longest levee system in the country. We're follow New Orleans and Sacramento as the longest levee systems in the country. So we have tens of thousands of jobs in low-lying industrial areas, whether it be Swope Park, whether it be the Dodson Industrial District, whether it be Turkey Creek, whether it be the Northeast Industrial Area, the Central Industrial District, the Blue Valley Industrial Area. All of those are in low-lying, prone-to-flooding areas. So we've been working on these projects for decades. It took us, we just celebrated the grand opening of the Blue River Flood Control Project. That took us 55 years to build.
Wow.
So during that 55 years, businesses and people, residents, are flown to flooding, prone to sewer backups, all of those issues which make life difficult. What we'd like to do with question two is accelerate some of these projects, get some of these done. A classic one is Brush Creek.
I'm familiar with
Brush Creek is fixed all the way basically to the Bruce R. Watkins overpass. And then after Bruce R. Watkins, it's not finished. It needs to be finished down to Lake of the Enshriners. It's about a $6 to $8 million project to get that done. Let's get that done and connect the improvements on the west side to the improvements on the east side. Hopefully encourage some redevelopment. But it also ties into Town Fork Creek, which has had chronic sewer backups and flooding issues for decades. So we can start to tackle some of those issues that just take too long for us to build. It shouldn't take us decades to complete these these big flood control projects because the impact is on people and its impact on businesses and jobs, and all of that's bad for the city. So we need to get this flooding addressed sooner rather than later. And Congress has been good to give us the money for the leverage, and we need to take advantage of it while Congress is willing to keep giving us money for flood control projects. For every dollar we spend there, we're leveraging almost another $3 in federal dollars to get those projects done.
$450 Question three is $50 million towards public building repair and renovation.
Yeah, that is very simple. We've got a couple of projects that we have to deal with. The first and foremost that we continue to argue is ADA accessibility, Americans with Disabilities Act accessibility issues. We have some big buildings that need some more ADA improvements. Starlight Theater, probably everybody in town's been to Starlight Theater. If you're in a wheelchair at the very back of Starlight Theater, given the slope of those ramps, you're moving at a pretty good speed when you get down to the stage. It's got to be made more accessible for people with disabilities. Another building that needs a lot of work is City Hall, built in 1937, before there were any requirements for disabilities, provisions for disabilities. That building has one ADA accessible bathroom for the entire building. We're working on the second one, but we need to have more accessibility issues. Our elevators aren't accessible for folks in wheelchairs. So the public buildings that everybody in the city accesses, all the residents, whether able or disabled, need to be able to access those buildings. So that's question three. The other component of question three is the city needs a new animal shelter. Our current animal shelter on Raytown Road, south of the Arrowhead Stadium, is worn out, obsolete, and too small. We need a new one, and we've worked out a public-private partnership where the city will put in the money it would take for us to build a brand new shelter on our own, and the philanthropic community is going to build a little nicer one, a little bigger one, and most importantly, add a maintenance endowment to maintain it as we go forward. So it's a good example of the public and the private sector coming together to deal with those issues that are critical to a holistic round of life. We're going to take care of the people, we're going to take care of the infrastructure, now we're going to take care of the pets.
I hear you. Now, just for time issues here, Mr. Schulte, I'll read question 4 and 5, and our viewers will have to get more information online about these issues. Question 4 came about as a result of a citizen petition initiative that calls for a citywide 1/8 cent sales tax increase for 10 years and encourages economic development from 9th Street to Gregory Boulevard and from Paseo to Indiana Avenue. Question 5 limits the authorization punishment that can be imposed for the possession or control of 35 grams or less of marijuana to a $25 fine. Now, I would like to talk a little bit about the opposition in terms of why people might not want to vote for this. A proponent civil rights organization, I'm trying to find it here, has said that we don't need this right now at this particular time, that it's putting a burden on our property owners, this property tax, not right now, not at this time. What is your response to that?
Well, I would say there's probably never going to be a better time to fix infrastructure. That cost is only going to increase as we move forward. So the reason we have put this on as a general obligation property tax issue is a property tax is the most equitable way to distribute the costs of public improvements across the city. So for the average selling price of a home in Kansas City of $140,000, if we issued $40 million a year, like our plan is over the next 20 years, it's an $8 annual property tax increase. So it goes 8, 16, 24, 32. Now the advantage of that is, I mentioned the $140,000 home. That's the average selling price in Kansas City. If you're in a $40,000 home or a $50,000 home, you're paying significantly less than that. For example, a $70,000 home would only pay $4 a year. And in between that, you get your sidewalks repaired, you get without assessment back to you as a property owner, which is a huge issue for residents who right now are responsible for fixing their sidewalks at their own expense. Well, if you can avoid a $2,000 or $3,000 bill at one time that is associated with replacing your sidewalks, and instead pay a $30 or $40 charge on your property taxes, it's much cheaper for you as a resident to pay that smaller amount than it is to have to deal with that larger cost. So we think it's the most equitable way to spread the cost around the city. So businesses and commercial properties that are worth a lot more pay a corresponding higher property tax. Higher valued properties pay a higher property tax rate. Lower valued properties pay a lower property tax rate. So we think it's a much more equitable way to deal with the huge infrastructure in the city and make it affordable for everybody.
Well, Well, I have two more questions.
Sure.
For a person who is in the middle income tax bracket, about how much will that total over time?
Well, for over time, what it'll be, it will depend on the type of, depend on the house that you're living in, the value of the house that you're living in. So if say you're in a house that's worth $70,000, the most you will pay in 20 years is $80 more per year than you're spending over years. So it's a 20-year program. It ramps up over 20 years, and then it goes down over the next 20 years. So it really takes 40 years from the beginning to the end, but we think it's a very modest property tax increase over the term of that. Again, the first 20 years increase, and then the last 20 years decrease. So it's not based on income, like a sales tax. A sales tax, lower income folks spend a higher percentage of their income on taxable goods like groceries, energy, utilities, those types of stuff. On property, it's only based on the value of the property.
Can you tell us what will happen if this doesn't pass?
What will happen is the infrastructure will continue to languish. We'll continue to try to, it'll still take us a long time to deal with flood control projects and street projects. And probably most importantly, sidewalks and curbs will still be the responsibility of the adjoining property owner, which is going to be an expense on residents. We're trying to get away from that. So if it doesn't pass, we keep doing what we're doing, which people don't like. It's roads, bridges, and flood control and sidewalks are three of our top 5 priorities in our annual citizen satisfaction issues of things that people want to see fixed. So that's what we're trying to do.
We encourage our viewers to make educated decision to go out on April 4th and vote for this particular issue. I have one last question.
Sure.
We're in the 18th and Vine district. The Kansas City Biz Care and Small Business. How does that promote economic inclusion for business development here in our district?
What we do is through our BizCare effort, we are providing opportunities for anyone, especially our minority or startup entrepreneurial community, to get connected with folks for business planning, access to capital. We have an urban business development growth initiative that is managed through small business, our small business and BizCare effort, and that basically provides scholarships for young entrepreneurs, young business owners to go to the Kauffman Fast Track business planning. All of that's paid for through a scholarship program offered by the city. And all of that's centered at 18th and Vine. So we're really trying to promote small minority businesses, homegrown businesses right here in the urban core, and then hopefully giving them the access to the same tools that anybody else in the city would have, but they can do it without cost. So we encourage you, if you're interested in starting your own business, contact the BizCare office. We're located right across the street from City Hall in the 11th and Oak parking garage.
Excellent. There's a website?
Yep, there's a website. You can connect it from kcmo.gov and and just look for the link for small business.
Okay. Other projects going on. I understand that you have a city budget that's being passed or in the process of gaining approval by your city council.
Yep,
people,
city.
and it's encouraging public safety.
Yep. City Council will adopt the budget March 23rd, next Thursday, a week from yesterday. It's a $1.6 billion budget. It has a focus on public safety, but it continues all of our neighborhood programs that we've been doing for a year. But the bulk of the general fund resources goes to police and fire, fixed costs of their personnel costs and benefits. We are doing something important. I think your viewers need to see is we are taking the first steps to renegotiating our overflow control program that's affecting our annual water and sewer bills. So you will see a slightly lower rate increase this year as we get to as we're going to try to start that conversation about renegotiating our overflow control program, which is driving our sewer bills. So instead of a 13% increase, you're going to see a 9.5% increase. So and only a 1.5% increase on your water bill. So we've tried. It's about a $5 a month increase in your overall water bill, but it's hopefully a little smaller than it has been in the future, and sets us up to have a conversation with the federal government about giving us more time, make it more affordable to fix our sewer system.
Thank you for informing us on that.
My pleasure.
The State of Kansas City address is coming up on March the 28th. What do you and your staff expect the mayor to promote?
I think the mayor is going to probably obviously talk about the importance of this upcoming general obligation bond authorization, which takes place on April 4th. But he's probably going to be talking about the great things that are happening all over the city. whether it's redevelopment on the east side. I just saw we're moving dirt on a new affordable housing project at 27th and Prospect, right behind, south of the new crime lab, the East Patrol Station. A lot of great things happening all over the city. So I would imagine the mayor will be talking about not only investments that are going on in 18th and Vine, the baseball facility, the Urban Baseball Youth Academy right across the street here. I think he's going to be talking about all the great things that are happening all over the city.
Okay, and I got to ask the president's proposed budget. Today in the Kansas City Star, they reported that it would affect the community development block grant. How are you responding to that?
Well, we obviously think it's an absolute disaster for cities. It not only takes out the community development block grant, it eliminates the choice grant, which we were able to get for Northeast, and we were going to go after a future grant elsewhere. But it eliminates a lot of transit funding. It eliminates a lot of our public health funding. All of those programs that really affect a lot of men, women, and children, a lot of our lead paint programs, all of those programs are affected, either eliminated or cut back significantly. So that's the city council was in Washington, D.C. this week talking to their legislators. We're going to fight like heck to make sure that those budget recommendations don't go forward. That community development block grant has financed and has rehabbed this building we're sitting in. It has been a tremendous tool for Eastside redevelopment for the last 30 years. We want it to continue.
Well, Mr. Schulte, I do thank you for sharing with us here today. Is there anything else that you want to share with us?
Well, I would encourage everyone to talk to their neighbors, get out and enjoy the great spring weather in Kansas City. Obviously, encourage people to vote on April 4th. It's a big decision day for the city council, but most importantly, just enjoy all the great things that are happening in Kansas City.
Well, we thank you for coming on and sharing with us today. You'll have to come back soon.
Happy to do that.
And share with us again. What's up, Kansas City? I'm Glenn Frizzell. The sky's the limit. Aim high, shoot for the moon. If you missed it, at the very least, you would have landed among the stars. Take care until next time.
I'm IFBB Bikini Pro Cat Williams, and when I'm not working out in the gym, I'm searching the web on Cascade Media and What's Up Kansas City. So make sure you check them out.